The emergency broadcast system has been screaming at you for 3 days straight. Government PSAs, stockpile reminders, the annual Stay Safe, Stay Home campaign featuring some congressman's wife smiling like she's selling laundry detergent instead of warning you about legalized murder. You muted it after the first hour. Everyone did. Now you're standing in your living room at 6:47 p.m. on March 21st, watching the sunset through reinforced windows, and the silence before the siren feels heavier than any sound you've ever heard. 13 minutes. Your go bag is packed, your water storage is full, your family is accounted for. You've done this 6 times now. 6 annual purges since the new founding fathers made murder a national holiday. And you're still here. But here's the thing that keeps you up at night. The thing that separates you from the normies, boarding up their windows with plywood and prayers. You've never actually survived the purge. You've survived the violence, the masked idiots, the opportunistic criminals, the chaos. But the purge isn't a horror movie. It's a systems collapse simulator. And every year, you watch the aftermath claim more victims than the night itself. Hollywood sold America The Purge as a morality play. Rich versus poor, good versus evil, humanity's dark heart exposed for 12 cathartic hours. They missed the point entirely. The purge isn't a moral test. It's a logistics nightmare dressed up as social policy. And tonight, while everyone's watching their doors, you're going to watch the infrastructure. Because that's where the real body count lives. 6:52 p.m. The final minutes. The TV switches automatically to the emergency broadcast. You've seen this 100 times, but you watch anyway. Habit. Ritual. The last gasp of normalcy before the world inverts. This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge sanctioned by the US government. The voice is calm, almost bored, like announcing a weather delay at an airport. Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during the purge. All other weapons are restricted. Government officials of ranking 10 have been granted immunity from the purge and shall not be harmed. You mouth the words along with the recording, muscle memory. Commencing at the siren, any and all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 continuous hours. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable until tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. when the purge concludes. There it is, the line everyone glosses over. Emergency services will be unavailable. Not reduced, not limited, unavailable. No ambulances, no fire trucks, no 911. For the next 12 hours, the entire emergency response infrastructure of the United States, the thing that separates modern civilization from the Dark Ages, simply stops. Blessed be our new founding fathers and America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all. The broadcast ends. You check your watch. 6:58 p.m. 2 minutes. You turn off every light in the house. Light discipline starts now, not when the siren sounds. Now. Your family knows the drill. Positions, sectors, fields of fire. You've rehearsed this like a stage play because when the adrenaline hits, training is all you have. 6:59 p.m. You hear your neighbor's generator kick on. Amateur. That sound carries for blocks. Might as well hang a sign that says, "Resources here." You make a mental note. If he survives the night, you'll have a conversation about operational security. If. 7 p.m. The siren. That long, mournful wail that sounds like the death cry of everything you thought you knew about civilization. It echoes off buildings, bounces through empty streets, burrows into your chest cavity, and nests there like a parasite. 12 hours. The clock starts now. The first 60 minutes. The freeze response. Here's what the movies get catastrophically wrong. The opening moments of the purge are not chaos. They're paralysis. 90% of the American population has no capacity for premeditated violence. They're not hiding weapons under their beds, sharpening machetes, or rehearsing home invasions. They're standing in their kitchens exactly like you are, hearts hammering, palms sweating, waiting for something to happen. This is the freeze response, the third F that nobody talks about. Fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze is where most people live when genuine danger presents itself. The streets outside your window are empty. Not horror movie empty with fog machines and ominous music, just empty. Like a snow day, but with the promise of murder. Your instinct screams at you to do something. Move, act, drive to your bug-out location, check on your parents, verify your sister made it home. Don't. Every door is a fatal funnel. Every window is a liability. Every street corner is an ambush point. Venturing outside during the freeze window, the first 60 to 90 minutes when the sheep are still paralyzed, puts you in contact with the only people who are moving. And those people? They're not amateurs. The organized threat. You hear the first coordinated gunfire at 7:23 p.m. Not the scattered pops of amateur hour. This is rhythmic, professional. 3-round bursts followed by movement, followed by more bursts. Somewhere in your city, a tactical team is executing a planned operation. Here's what the government doesn't advertise about the Purge. It's not really about releasing societal pressure or reducing crime rates or whatever psychological justification the new founding fathers peddle on cable news. It's a 12-hour window of zero law enforcement. And for certain organizations, cartels, organized crime syndicates, corporate black ops divisions, that window is worth more than gold. Right now, while your neighbors cower behind their deadbolts, professional crews are hitting
Federal Reserve branch banks, not for the cash, for the transaction records, the evidence, pharmaceutical distribution centers. One coordinated strike can net millions in opioids, insulin, controlled substances. Street value, incalculable. National Guard armories. Class 4 weapons are legal tonight. Class 5 and above, that's where the real hardware lives. And guards who might die for their country won't necessarily die for a building full of M4s when their families are unprotected at home. Evidence warehouses. How many prosecutions collapse when the physical evidence burns? These aren't crimes of passion. They're military operations that have been planned for months, waiting for the one night when response time becomes infinite. Your suburban neighborhood? It's not on their radar. Not yet. The organized threats will work their way down the value chain as the night progresses.
the traffic trap. Your radio crackles. You've got a small ham setup, nothing fancy, but enough to monitor local frequencies. Highway 101 is completely gridlocked. 405 is a parking lot from Sherman Oaks to shots fired on the I-10 overpass, multiple vehicles. There it is, the annual migration of the unprepared. Every year, the same thing happens. Millions of normies who didn't prepare, didn't fortify, didn't think about this until the siren sounded, all have the same brilliant idea at the same moment. Bug out. Get in the car. Drive somewhere safe. Grandma's house in the country, the family cabin, anywhere but here. They flood the highways simultaneously, creating the world's largest traffic jam. And then the predators arrive. A car stuck in traffic is a metal coffin. You can't maneuver, you can't escape. You're surrounded by strangers in an environment where conflict resolution no longer involves insurance claims. Road rage becomes homicide. Carjacking becomes standard practice. And that family in the minivan who thought they could outrun the Purge? They're now stationary targets in a kill box of their own creation. The highways will be impassable within 90 minutes. They'll stay that way until morning, or until the fires clear them. You think about your brother across town. He wanted to drive to your place when the siren sounded. You told him to shelter in place. He didn't listen. His phone goes straight to voicemail at 8:14 p.m. You try not to do the math. You try not to imagine which overpass, which off-ramp, which stretch of gridlocked highway. You fail. The first fire, the invisible killer. 9:07 p.m. You smell it before you see it. That sharp chemical tang that cuts through the spring air like a warning. Then the orange glow appears on the horizon. Downtown, maybe 3 miles east, fire. Here's the variable that makes the Purge exponentially more lethal than its architects ever intended. There is no fire department. A single Molotov cocktail, a kitchen accident, a candle knocked over by a panicked family, an electrical short in an abandoned building. Under normal circumstances, any of these would summon a response within minutes. Professional firefighters, coordinated suppression, containment protocols. Tonight, there is no response. A fire that would normally consume a single structure now spreads unchecked, building to building, block to block. The wind picks up embers and scatters them like seeds across dry rooftops. You've studied historical urban conflagrations, the Great Chicago Fire, San Francisco 1906, Dresden. You know what happens when fire meets dense urban infrastructure with no suppression. The term is firestorm, a self-sustaining thermal event that generates its own wind patterns, creating a feedback loop of destruction that can consume entire city sections in hours. By midnight, fire will become the leading cause of purge-related deaths. Not violence, not the masked psychopaths the movies obsess over. Combustion. Plain old fire, spreading through a civilization that forgot what happens when you remove the people who fight it. The glow on the horizon gets brighter. You check your fire extinguishers. You run the garden hose. You hope the wind doesn't shift.
Grid down. The cascade begins.
10:02 p.m. The lights flicker. You've been watching the fire spread, tracking its orange march across the skyline, when the power grid does something it's not supposed to do. First, a brownout. Lights dimming. Your refrigerator compressor straining. Then, nothing. Total blackout. Your neighborhood, the next neighborhood, the entire visible grid section. Dark. Here's the cascade you've been waiting for, the one that transforms the purge from a violent event into a civilizational stress test. The fire reached a substation, or maybe multiple substations, or maybe the workers at the power plant, the essential personnel who keep the electrons flowing, finally did what everyone else did, abandoned their posts to protect their families. The grid operators are human beings with spouses and children in undefended homes. How many of them are willing to die at their control panels while their loved ones face the night alone? The answer, apparently, is not enough. Power grid failure triggers a cascade of secondary collapses. Water treatment plants go offline. The pumps that maintain pressure in municipal water systems require electricity. No power, no pressure. Within hours, the taps run dry. Sewage systems fail. The pumps that move waste away from population centers stop. Basements flood with sewage. Containment systems overflow. Traffic systems die. Not that anyone's obeying traffic lights tonight, but the loss of coordinated infrastructure turns intersections into ambush points. Communication towers lose backup power. Cell networks, already stressed, begin to fail. Natural gas systems lose monitoring. Pressure regulators, safety shutoffs, leak detection, all dependent on electrical systems that no longer exist. You stand in the darkness, listening to the silence that replaces the electrical hum you never noticed until it stopped, and you understand something that makes your stomach drop. The modern city is a magic trick. Flip a switch, water appears. Turn a dial, waste disappears. Push a button, light exists. The magician just left the building, and you're standing in a concrete tomb that holds 10 million people who never learned the trick wasn't real.
The event horizon, cascading failures. Let's talk about the things that keep emergency planners awake at night. The second and third order effects that never make the purge night highlight reels. Industrial accidents. There's a chemical plant within 30 miles of you, probably closer. Refineries, processing facilities, storage tanks full of substances that require constant temperature regulation, pressure monitoring, and active cooling. What happens when the operators go home? What happens when the backup generators run dry? The answer looks like Bhopal, like Texas City, like a toxic cloud drifting over sleeping neighborhoods while the warning systems stay silent because there's no one left to trigger them. You seal your windows. You check the wind direction. You hope you're upwind from whatever's about to rupture. Prison riots. There are over 1,500 correctional facilities in the United States, housing approximately 1.9 million inmates. The corrections officers who staff those facilities have families too. Do the math. How many guards will report for duty at a maximum security prison while their wives and children face purge night unprotected? Two possibilities emerge. The inmates are left locked in their cells, unfed and unmonitored, for 12 hours. Some facilities will experience riots. Others will experience die-offs. Neither scenario is pleasant, or the systems fail. Backup power dies, electronic locks release, guard stations are abandoned, and the population of a maximum security facility disperses into the surrounding community. Neither option improves your night. Hospital collapse. Hospital backup generators run on diesel. Average fuel supply, 48 to 72 hours under normal load. But this isn't normal load. Staff are abandoning their posts. Security is non-existent. The patients who can flee have fled. The patients who can't. ICU life support systems require continuous power. Neonatal incubators, ventilators, dialysis machines, cardiac monitors. When the generators run dry, or when the fuel is stolen by someone who needs it more, those machines stop. The patients on those machines stop shortly after. There will be no obituaries for the people who die in dark hospital rooms tonight. No ceremonies, no acknowledgement, just silence where heartbeats used to be. Cyber warfare. While the physical world burns, someone is running the largest coordinated hack in human history. Property records, financial databases, court documents, medical histories. Criminal evidence servers. Delete. The physical chaos is perfect camouflage. Every IT security team in the country is either sheltering at home or dealing with immediate physical threats. No one is monitoring the digital infrastructure. When the sun rises, millions of Americans will discover that their mortgages have vanished, along with all proof they ever paid them. Criminal cases will collapse without evidence. Identity records will be scrambled beyond recovery. The digital fire burns faster and cleaner than the physical one, and no one's watching. Targeted violence. The professionals. Let's dispel a myth. Random violence is cinematically satisfying but economically inefficient. The masked lunatic hunting strangers for sport? He exists, but he's a statistical outlier, a rounding error in the night's body count. The real threat, the one that should keep you awake, is targeted violence. Purge Night provides a once-yearly window for consequence-free elimination of specific problems. The business partner with the insurance policy. Tonight, that policy pays out, and no one asks questions. The witness scheduled to testify next month. Case dismissed permanently. The ex-spouse with full custody. Family court outcomes just became negotiable. The employee who knows about the offshore accounts. Corporate liability resolved. The whistleblower, the competitor, the rival, the inconvenient truth teller. Professional operators don't wear masks and carry machetes. They wear dark clothing and carry suppressed weapons. They arrive quietly, accomplish specific objectives, and leave no witnesses. The violence you should fear isn't random, it's precise, and it's been planned for months. Home defense. Psychological attrition. 11:30 p.m. You're halfway through. Your body doesn't know that. Your adrenal system doesn't track time. It tracks threat level, and you've been running at maximum threat level for 4.5 hours. Here's what the tactical manuals don't emphasize enough. The human body is not designed for sustained high alert status. Maintaining condition red, combat readiness, hypervigilance, immediate threat response burns through physiological resources like jet fuel. After 4 hours, your fine motor control is degraded by approximately 40%. The precise movements required to dial a combination lock, thread a needle, or place an accurate shot at distance are compromised. After 6 hours, cognitive function begins to collapse. Decision-making speed decreases. Risk assessment becomes unreliable. The part of your brain that weighs consequences surrenders to the part that simply reacts. After 8 hours, you're operating on gross motor function and animal instinct. Fight, flight, or freeze. Nothing in between. This is how friendly fire incidents happen. This is how fathers shoot daughters coming home from hiding in the basement. This is how families destroy themselves while waiting for external threats that never materialize. Light discipline becomes critical. A single candle flame visible through a window is a beacon that says someone is home, someone is awake, someone has resources worth taking. Noise discipline becomes critical. Sound carries differently in a world without background hum. Every footstep, every whispered conversation, every accidental door slam broadcasts information to anyone listening. Sleep discipline becomes critical. You cannot maintain combat effectiveness for 12 hours straight. Rotating watches, scheduled rest periods, maintaining some reserve capacity. These are survival necessities, not luxuries. You stare at the door. The door stares back. 5.5 hours to go. 3:47 a.m. The dark hours. The fire glow has faded. Either the downtown burn has exhausted its fuel, or it's spread beyond your line of sight. The gunfire has become sporadic, random pops rather than coordinated volleys. The organized operators have completed their objectives. What remains is amateur hour. The grudge settlers, the opportunists, the people who spent all year fantasizing about this night and are now discovering that violence is harder than movies suggest. Your family is rotating watches. 2 hours on, 2 hours off. You're supposed to be sleeping, but sleep doesn't come when your ears are straining for the sound of breaking glass. You think about the world outside your walls. How many bodies are cooling on highway median strips right now? How many patients died when the hospital generators failed? How many people are trapped in burning buildings, in flooded basements, in cars that will never move again? The official death toll will be measured in the low thousands. That's what the government will announce. That's what the media will report. But you know the truth. The real casualties. The diabetics who can't access insulin, the cardiac patients whose pacemakers won't be monitored, the elderly who die from dehydration and heat exposure in powerless homes. Those won't be counted as purge deaths. Those will be infrastructure-related complications. Those will be delayed mortality outcomes. Those will be statistics buried in appendices that no one reads. You know because you've read those appendices, and you know that the purge doesn't end when the siren sounds. 7 a.m., the all clear, the siren again. That same mournful wail, but different now. The commencement siren sounds like a door slamming shut. The conclusion siren sounds like a coffin lid closing. This concludes the annual purge. All emergency services are now operational. May God be with you all. You almost cry. Then you look outside. The smoke is worse than you expected. A gray haze that hangs over everything, filtering the sunrise into something sick and orange. The smell is indescribable, burnt plastic, cordite, and something organic that you don't want to identify. 3 houses on your street have broken windows. One is still smoldering. Your neighbor's generator is silent. Has been since around 4 a.m. You don't know what happened. You don't want to know. The purge is over, but you know better than to believe that. The long hangover. Biohazard 72 hours. That's the window emergency planner's site for urban sanitation collapse. After 72 hours without functional sewage systems, bodies in the streets, and compromised water supplies, epidemic disease becomes a near certainty. But those planners assume a functional response infrastructure. Cleanup crews standing by. Medical personnel ready to deploy. Decontamination protocols already in motion. None of those assumptions hold. The sewage backed up during the power outage, into basements, into water tables, into the same streets where the bodies are already decomposing in what's turning into an unseasonably warm week. Cholera, typhoid, dysentery. Diseases that America conquered a century ago, returning to a population with no immunity and no infrastructure. Within 48 hours, the hospitals, those that are still functional, will be overwhelmed with gastrointestinal cases. Within a week, the city becomes a biological hot zone. The water you stored before the purge is the only water you can trust. Make it last. The supply chain freeze. The trucks don't come. You expected this. You prepared for this. But watching it happen still hits differently than reading about it. Here's what the just-in-time logistics advocates never mention. The entire system is built on trust. Truck drivers agree to haul cargo because they trust the routes are safe, the destinations exist, and they'll make it home afterward. Your city has just been designated a hot zone. Insurance companies won't cover vehicles that enter. Fuel depots won't supply routes that pass through. Drivers won't accept loads that require crossing the perimeter. The grocery stores were empty by hour 3 of the purge. They'll stay empty for weeks. The resupply you've been counting on, the things will return to normal assumption that underlies every normie survival plan, it's not coming. Not on your timeline, not on any timeline you can count on. Martial law. The National Guard rolls in on day 5. You almost feel relief. Then you see the checkpoints. This isn't peacekeeping. This is occupation. The police can't simply return to duty. Too many questions about what individual officers did during the lawless hours. Too much community trust destroyed. Too many badge-wearing participants in the night's activities. So the military fills the vacuum, and military authority comes with military rules. Curfew, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Violators detained without hearing. Movement. Travel permits required between zones, denied at discretion. Property, rights suspended pending ownership verification. Remember those deleted property records? Search and seizure, constitutional protections suspended under emergency authorization. Your rights didn't pause for the purge. They evaporated, and the emergency order authorizing their suspension has no expiration date. Financial ruin. The insurance letter arrives on day 14. Claim denied under Section 14.7. Acts sanctioned under federal emergency social stability legislation fall outside coverage parameters. Your damages, $47,000 in repairs, broken windows, fire damage from embers, water damage from the pressure failure. Your compensation, 0. The insurance industry knew this would happen. They lobbied for the exemption clause. They calculate their purge exposure annually and price it into premiums nationwide, then deny every claim when it matters. Millions of homeowners, millions of denied claims, millions of bankruptcies. The dollar is already falling. International markets watched the footage, the fires, the gridlock, the systematic infrastructure failure, and decided that American stability is no longer a reliable bet. Your savings are worth 60 cents on the pre-purge dollar. Congratulations, you survived the night. Now survive the decade of depression that follows. The wake-up call. So what did you learn? Not about violence. You already knew about violence. About systems. You learned that the civilization you depend on is a supply chain wearing a costume. Electricity comes from power plants staffed by people who might leave. Water comes from treatment facilities that require constant maintenance. Food comes from a logistics network that assumes the roads are safe. Pull one thread, and the whole thing unravels. The Purge didn't create chaos. It revealed how much chaos was always there, held back by nothing more than habit, assumption, and the thin blue line of people who agreed to keep showing up. You are your own first responder. Not because the government is evil, not because society is corrupt, but because the systems we depend on are fragile, and no one is coming to save you when those systems fail. Not the police, not the fire department, not FEMA. You, your skills, your resources, your preparation, your community. That's what stands between your family and the statistics. The final truth, the Purge isn't a 12-hour event. It's a civilization stress test that exposes every weakness in the infrastructure we've convinced ourselves is permanent. The night itself claims thousands. The aftermath claims tens of thousands more. In disease, in deprivation, in the slow collapse of systems that never fully recover. And here's the part they don't put in the government PSAs. It's getting worse. Every year, the infrastructure is a little more strained. The supply chains are a little more fragile. The social trust is a little more eroded. The next purge will hit a weaker system than this one did. The one after that, weaker still. You can't stop the purge. You can't vote it away. You can't protest it out of existence. But you can be ready. You can have water when the taps run dry. You can have food when the trucks don't come. You can have skills when the specialists are unavailable. You can have community when the institutions fail. The question isn't whether you're paranoid. The question is whether you're prepared. 6 months later, you're standing in your kitchen at 6:47 p.m. on September 21st, watching the sunset through reinforced windows. The emergency broadcast is screaming its annual warning. You muted it after the first hour, but this time you're not afraid. This time your water storage is deeper, your food supply is longer, your community network is stronger, your skills are sharper. This time, when the siren sounds, you don't flinch. You check your watch, you dim the lights, and you wait, not like prey hoping to be overlooked, but like someone who's done the math and likes the numbers. The siren wails. 12 hours. You've got this. We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. Archilochus, Greek soldier, 650. What are you going to do about it?